Hey, gifted crafters! Welcome back to our Saturday Crafternoon. Welcome, everyone. So glad you can tune in today. Thank you so much for joining. I truly appreciate you taking the time to watch our videos here and support our lives. I'm excited to be here. My name is Nancy. If you're joining us for the first time, my name is Nancy with GiftsHQ, and I host these weekly live sessions to talk about all things that are crafting, like sewing, crocheting, knitting, embroidery, decoupage, and so much more. So we like to cover a little bit of each topic in these events, and I like to help each other out. So feel free to jump into the chat. Make some friends, chat among yourselves, listen in, ask questions. We like to share tips, tricks, and ideas with each other. And this is to help out, anyone who's just making some crafts for some friends or family, or even if you're into selling, like if you have an Etsy shop or if you are hosting a craft show. So we like to kind of juggle ideas out there and try things new. So if that's something that you're into, you're definitely in the right place. So thanks again for joining. Let's just say hello to a couple of friends I see out there. I see Amy Bowles. I see Crafting with Robin. Jenny Owens. I see Marian Allison. Marian Colbert. Norma Lasro. 1 Minute Tips. Robin's Quilt Basket. Wow. Thanks, guys. Evelyn and so many more. Thank you guys so much for joining. I really appreciate it. So what are we covering? There's so many things going on. So the first thing, if you're new and you've noticed when we first started off the live, I like to host the trivia questions. And the trivia questions are 1 point each. And what we like to do is we keep track of all the trivia points that are out there. And what we'll do at the end of every quarter, we like to announce who our trivia master is. And we may throw in a little gift or two. So I hope you guys enjoy them. And, feel free to jump in. And we like to just keep track of the points for you. And we'll post the points out on the community weekly. So stop by and check those out. Hey, Jenny, how are you? She said, trying to make paper flowers with tissue paper. Need help? Well, we can help you with that, Jenny. Awesome. That's great. Alrighty, so let's just get started on a few things because I've got a lot of things going on this week, so I'm a little out of it. So my dad's been in the hospital, as some of you may already know. He's been in the hospital now for 2 weeks. So it's been a little crazy for me to do any kind of crafting because of all the driving back and forth. So I saw some people talking in the chat, and yes, I'm in the Miami, Florida area, so the gas here has been really crazy, and there's been really long lines and people trying to get gas because there's outages all over the place, and it's due to like all the flooding and things that had gone on. But I'm hoping things get better because I'm gonna try to get through the next couple of weeks. It's been 2 weeks now since my dad's been in the hospital, and my sister did come down. She was in the live with me last week, and that was live number 38. This is live number 39, and she was able to join me on the live. So we had a little show and tell type of things. We shared a couple of things that I bought from the Temu site, and we did some comparisons with Alibaba, with Temu, and then we kind of reviewed all of the stuff. So it was a little unboxing that I did for some of the things that I was able to buy. So just go ahead and check it out if you haven't already. It was a lot of fun. She's very comical, so I think you guys will enjoy that. We also did a couple other things that I can show you. We talked about embroidery on a canvas. So this is just, I talked about canvases that you can get from the Dollar Tree, how you can kind of take them apart, embroider on them, and then kind of put them back on the frame, or you can do, different ways that you could put them on the frame, whether it be in the front or in the back. You can paint on them. There's so many different ideas that you can make with this. And one thing I do want to mention is when you finish embroidering the item and you go to put it back onto the canvas, I want you to notice one thing. So you'll see here I have like some creases here, and that's not good. So when you're putting your project back onto the canvas, if you are going to do it this way, where you're going to just staple it on, you really need to make sure that you stretch the canvas really, really rough. It's got to be stretched out so that you don't get this wrinkle. So this is something that happened to me. I'm probably going to be taking it off again and redoing this to put it back onto the canvas, because I don't want to have these wrinkles here. But that's something that, you know, we didn't get to talk about last week. We only talked about how you can make it and kind of put it on the canvas. But this is something that, you know, can happen if then you're just trying to put it back on. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of that. So that's something that, you know, was a lot of fun putting things together. We mentioned a lot of ideas last week, so you may want to kind of check that out if you missed it. All right, I see a lot of comments going in. Thank you guys for all the prayers for my dad. Thanks. He's getting better. He's going through his treatment. So he does have leukemia. So, you know, as he does his treatments, it does take a long time. It's just, you know, really stressful doing all the back and forth. And I was really grateful that my sister came to help out for a little bit, kind of relieved us from going around, because my poor husband was really doing a lot of stretching, and with this gas shortage, it's really a little nerve-wracking, because he's got to kind of go north and south. You know, my mom is south of me, the hospital's north of me, so it's just a ton of back and forth and just keeping up with the kids in school. So it's a lot of things just going on. So I'm trying to keep it all together. We're trying to keep the craft going. I really didn't want to cancel the live. I wanted to just throw something in here. I have something to show you that I was able to do, but it was just, you know, a lot of things going on. Just life, right? Alrighty. So couple of other things that we did for the live for last week. Again, the Timo unboxing, unboxing the comparison that we did for Alibaba. You'll have my sister that was on the live, and the embroidery on the canvas. Those are all the things we covered last week. So this week I wanted to talk about something that, you know, is kind of my favorite place. I like to talk about it a lot, which is the Dollar Tree. Now, it's not another haul, but I wanted to talk about something that I was able to make using jute that you can get from the Dollar Tree. And let me just pull all of the materials that you're going to need. Get them over here. Okay, so when you go to the Dollar Tree, they typically will have these jute, I guess, quarters, fat quarters, if you can say, and I'll kind of unravel one. And it's a nice size. It's a good fat quarter. And there's all kinds of different designs that you can get. This is just one that's just a polka dot. I've got another one with a white polka dot. I've got some bees, some flowers, and some other things that I'll show you in just a bit. But this is something that you can definitely make a project with. Very simple, easy. I'm going to show you how I just made a little purse with the jute. And it's something that, you know, it's very easy to do. It didn't take me long at all, because I really didn't have a lot of time. So I was looking for a very quick, easy project that I can get, kind of bang out to show you guys. And this was it. So I had the jute on hand because I did go to the Dollar Tree and buy the jute. So what I did at this point is, once you unravel the jute, the first thing you're going to notice is, I've got a lot of wrinkles on it. You know, so how do you get these wrinkles out? Some people are a little afraid to figure out, you know, what can I do with this? Because I don't want all these wrinkles to kind of come out, right, on your project. So what you would do is you're going to take just a regular water bottle, nothing fancy, and I would just spray. I would spray with the water bottle right on the creases where you find it folded on your jute. And you just spray it lightly, nothing very heavy, nothing at all. Once you've sprayed it, then just take your iron, set it to the highest setting, which is usually the linen cotton setting, and go ahead and iron it. Now, my preference is to just kind of turn it on the back side and iron it on this side, especially if you have little designs on the front. But it really doesn't matter. but I felt better doing it that way. And when I did that, I ironed all of this out and all of the creases came right out. So don't be afraid to go ahead and iron your jute. Now, what I did notice also is after I ironed it, it did get a little softer to me. It just felt, I don't know, a little easier to work with, because jute is not exactly the most easiest. It's not like fabric. It's not very flowy. It doesn't kind of just drape everywhere, right? Jute is a little bit of tougher material. It's very strong, so you can kind of pull on it and you can hear the sound that it makes, right? I don't know if you guys could hear that. So it is a very tough material, and it's a little difficult to work with because of the roughness of it. But I did find that after I wet it lightly and I ironed it, it did turn just a little bit softer. I'm not going to say it's the softest thing in the world, but it did turn a little bit softer, and I just found it a little bit easier to work with. So that was kind of my little prep for my project. And once I did that, I was ready to now move to the next step, which was going to be to start putting the bag together. So what I ended up doing is I took my fat quarter here and I folded it in half, and then I just kind of finger pressed this all the way down. Now, if you have that little roller thing, you can go ahead and do that to just kind of get that down pack. And once you iron it, you know, you won't have all of these wrinkles coming up. And what you really want to do is to make sure that your edges are aligned. Now, this seems a little bit odd because usually when you're going to sew, you're going to do right sides together and sew it and then turn it, you know, inside out, right? So that you won't see the seam. But I wanted to do this little trick because I am not going to put a liner inside my bag. What I'm actually going to do is sew this twice on the ends so that my raw edges do not show. Now, this is kind of my little trick on how I did this. So I went ahead, after I folded this, I went ahead and I stitched maybe about, if I could do about 1/4 of an inch, no more than 1/4. I want to stay as close to the edge as possible. So if you can get away with 1/8 of an inch, that's great. If not, 1/4 of an inch is just fine. And I went ahead and stitched all the way across on each side of the material. So on both sides, you'll go ahead and sew that, and you will see that your raw edges are going to show here on the edge here. Okay, and that's what you want. And yes, it's going to be a little odd because you are sewing it this way and your raw edges are going to show. But what I want to stress to you is when you do sew this type of material, especially if you're doing a bag, you want to make sure that you're doing a construction seam. And what do I mean by a construction seam? So I wanted to kind of grab my little sewing machine here. And this is just an older machine that I have. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect it because I don't need it connected right now. Okay. Now, on the sewing machine, I think one of the most important things that you can do when you are first getting into sewing is really understand your machine. Your machine is a workhorse. You've invested money in it. You're going to invest time in there. So you really need to invest in learning how your machine works. Every machine is different. This particular machine that I'm showing right here is a Brother HC 1850. I do have the Brother SC 1900, which is a nicer sewing machine. It has a lot more designs, stitches, and things like that. But this is my little older machine. Works great. I still use it. You know, it's just sometimes if I have my embroidery, my SC 1900 set to embroider, then I'll have this machine next to it to actually sew. So it just makes it a little convenient so I don't have to keep changing it out from an embroidering machine into a sewing machine. So I really enjoy this machine. It's really, really great, and it is a little workhorse. So I do have the arm exposed on it right now. It does come with a table. This is really made for sewing and quilting, which is what I like to do. And what I want to explain to you is when you are doing bags, especially, or if you're doing zipper couches, or if you're doing anything that has a seam that's really going to be put to the test, meaning you're gonna have weight on it, you're gonna stretch it, you're gonna do things to really put a little bit of a strain on it, then you want to sew a construction seam. So a construction seam, what I mean by that is with you playing with the settings of your sewing machine. I'm going to set my width no more than 2.5 inches. So you want to set that in your machine when you're doing that construction stitch. What that's going to do is make the stitch tighter. You want to have a very tight stitch so that it makes it very strong. That way it's able to hold up any tension that you give onto your product, right? So you want to make sure that you learn your machine, kind of look at the manual, read through it. There's so many things that you can discover that your machine does. Even if you've had, like I've had this machine for many, many years, and I still like to pull out the manual because there's so many things this machine does that I don't even realize that I haven't even used that setting. So, you know, this particular machine has a whole bunch of decorative stitches, you know, and I use them every now and then. I try to pick a new stitch and try to do something new. So I'm sure a lot of the machines now come with decorative stitches. You can play around with those. But the fun thing to do is when you play around with things like decorative stitching or just straight stitching, and you play around with the settings, right? The length of the setting. When you play with those settings, they completely change what your stitch looks like. So what I want to emphasize if you're doing bag making or things that require some type of construction stitch is to make sure that you are doing a tight stitch, because that's what's going to make it a lot stronger. So let me see. I see a couple of people in the chat here. They're saying, oh, 1 Minute Tip says, sorry about missing last week's live, but I did catch the replay. My daughter wanted me to go somewhere with the kiddos. I didn't know that was your sister. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm glad you were able to see the replay 1 Minute Tips. Older machine. You should see my singer. So Robin says, I have an old metal Kenmore that has a whole bunch of attachments. I don't use it much anymore. Yeah, you know, we have these machines, and even if you go to like auctions and you know, estate sales and garage sales, like you may find an older machine that works really well and can really do the job. So, you know, don't count them out. Check them out. Go out there, and if you find one that you like, you know, you can always purchase it. You can always go and find YouTube channels that are specific to that machine, or you may find the manuals online. So it's definitely something that you can do to kind of just get into the crafting game and not spend a lot of money. Okay, so again, when you're doing this type of bag, or you're working with this type of material or a stitch where you want it to have a construction seam, you definitely want to pick a tight stitch. So I did 2.5 on my machine, and that gave me a very tight stitch that will really hold the bag well. Okay. Oh, hey, Boricua Sewing and Crafts. I got my sister on, and she's hopefully not watching. Maybe she can be listening, because she should be on the road unless she stopped to eat somewhere. Okay, so what I did was, again, I went ahead, I folded this in half after I went and ironed off all of the wrinkles. I sewed the sides together, and then what I did was I turned it inside out. So now you have it, the sides sewed together, and you turn it inside out. And so what you're going to notice is when you turn it inside out, it actually looks nice because you stitched the sides, and it looks like, you know, there's no raw edges there. But what you're going to do now is you are going to just fold it again and poke out all the corners. Make sure you stretch everything out. Try to get it as flat as possible. And then I want you to take it back to the sewing machine again, and you're going to stitch it up again on the side. Not only will that reinforce this a lot more, but what we're doing at that point is you are now hiding the raw edges. So you will not be able to see the raw edges from the outside, and you also will not be able to see the raw edges from the inside. So that's when I do that double sew on the sides, you know, that really reinforces it, and it makes it a nice clean finish on the sides of the bag. So that's what I did to kind of get the sides nice and clean. Once you finish sewing both sides again, you're going to flip the bag once again, and you'll have the right sides on the outside of the bag. But now you'll have your nice clean edges. So I'm going to show you one that I started here. And this is so you could see what I mean. So if you notice here, you see how I have a nice clean edge on the edge of the bag, and you cannot see any of that raw jute twine sticking out. Now, same thing happened on the inside. The inside also has nice clean edges on the inside. No raw twine or jute, you know, hanging out. And that's exactly what I wanted. So because you first sewed it on the outside to secure the two lines together, then you turn it over and you sew it again. So now your not only is your outer seam nice and clean, but the inside is as well. Now, if at that point, maybe you want to put in a liner inside the bag, you can do that. I kind of want to keep it just raw. So I left it open, so you can see on here, I don't have any liners inside the bag. And this is just something I wanted to throw together since I've been running around so much, you know, going back and forth to the hospital. I figured I can get this little bag just to put my knitted items inside. So that's just something that I threw together here. I did start working on another one, and I haven't decided how I wanted to finish this one off yet. But this is one that I have, and this one is just little daisies that are on the little daisy design that's on the jute. And again, these are all from the dollar store. So we have the little bee pattern here, and then we have the little daisies. And I thought these were really, really cute. So this is something that, you know, it's a very simple, easy project that you can put together. Now, once you have flipped the bag inside out, so you are now at the stage where your sides are completely sewn together and you're ready to now work on the top. You want to decide if you want to have handles or not, because you don't necessarily have to. If I were to tuck this in, it would just be like this. You know, maybe you'd want to install a zipper on the top, you know, and just use this as a pouch to store things. You can do that as well. But what I did at that point was I went ahead and I got some ribbon that I had in my stash. And this is called, it's his or her ribbon. It's 2.5 inches by 10 yards. And I believe I got this from Hobby Lobby. And I had it in my stash. And matter of fact, looks like I got it at a clearance price for $1.99. So not too bad of a price. But, you know, I just thought that this color would match this pattern perfectly. So this is what I decided to use for it. And what I did was I just pulled out the ribbon. I did fold it in half, and I wanted to kind of just finger press it to find that middle point of the 2.5 inch width. Once I've done that, I'm going to place it on top of the bag, and I'm going to have one side of the ribbon on the outer side, and then the other side is on the inside. So once I did that, I have this wrapped all the way around, and I used a decorative stitch. So this is where now your machine kind of comes in handy. And like I showed you guys, you know, there's a lot of decorative stitches on here. you know, so you guys can pick from your machine something that would really be cute on top of the ribbon. And then the other thing you may want to do is also look at the thread that you're using. You know, since it's a really kind of bright yellow color, you can use thread that would stand out. So you have to make the decision on whether or not you want your thread to kind of stand out on the ribbon, or do you kind of just want to use an invisible thread, or maybe you're just going to pick a yellow to just kind of hide the thread and not have a decorative stitch. It's totally up to you on how you do it, but this is just what I decided to do. I went ahead and I used, you just grab the thread from here. I used Sully, and I decided to use this fun little thread. You know, it's got these really cool colors, and I thought it would match really cute with the bee, so I wanted to go ahead and use it. So I did use this. It is by Sully. It is 850 yards. It's a 40 weight rayon. So I went ahead and used that thread for this particular project. Now I decided to use a decorative stitch, and I believe if you have the Brother HC 1850, it would be stitch number 15. That's the stitch that I used for this, and I'll show you what it looks like in just a second. Let me see if I can get the camera to focus on it. So if you see here, it's a pretty simple stitch. I just thought it would be something cute. Of course, there's tons of stitches that you can pick from, but this is the one that I decided to pick. And you see how how the color kind of fades in and out throughout the ribbon because of the thread that I'm using. So it's got a little bit of browns, a little bit of beige in there, so it kind of fades in and off as I stitch along. So it's not a solid colored stitch going all around. I wanted to do just something a little bit, you know, a little different. So I thought it was really pretty, and I thought that the design came out nice. And when I went ahead and stitched this together, you know, what I'm doing while I'm stitching the ribbon with the decorative stitch is I'm also hiding the raw edges of the jute. So you'll see when you're first starting out on the bag and you've sewed your sides, you see how your top edge is going to have this rough looking top here, and you'll have all these frays kind of sticking out, and you know, maybe you can cut some pieces out or pull them out like I'm doing here. Like, you can do that, or you know, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. What you can do, if you'd like, if you can go ahead and fold that top just a little bit, just to give it a little bit more of security. So when you are doing the decorative stitch, because if you decide to do a decorative stitch that is very loose, I should say, right? So maybe think of it like a zigzag stitch. You know, the wider the zigzag stitch, the looser it is in the middle, right? The tighter it is, the shorter it's going to be, the stronger it is going to be. So if you decide to use a really loose type of a stitch, you know, then you may want to fold this in half just so that it has more of a material to grab, and that way it would last a little bit longer. So go ahead and fold it. You know, if you don't want to take away from the width of the bag, then you don't necessarily have to. I would recommend for you to fold it even just a little bit, and then go ahead and put the ribbon onto the bag. Now what I do is, once I put the ribbon, I like to use my little clips to hold it down into place. So I'll clip it around the bag, and then I'll take this to my sewing machine and I'll pick the decorative stitch and go ahead and do the stitch. Now it is your choice if you want to do it down towards the bottom of the ribbon. So maybe you want to get to the very edge and do the decorative stitch that way, or you can just do the decorative stitch in the middle. And then maybe what you can do is take some fabric glue, just so that this doesn't kind of flap up on you. You may want to kind of just glue that down a little bit, you know, just so it doesn't move around. Some people may try to use something else just to hold it down so it doesn't move while they're sewing it, but I rather do the clips. I didn't want to use pins because pins will poke holes into the ribbon, and I didn't want that to happen. So I went ahead and I left the clips on, and then I just kind of sewed all the way around. Now when you get to the edges where you already have your seam, you're going to have a little bit of bulk there because you've already sewed this twice onto the corners, right? So you've sewed it wrong size together, then you flipped it over and you did right size together, and then when you flip it back and your right side is on the outside, you're going to notice, hey, I've got some bulk here that you need to kind of get over here. So what you're going to want to do is slow your machine down when you get to the edges, because you have a bit of a bulk here. Not too bad, but it's just some bulk that you want to make sure you slow down on and take your time on here. Now, when you cut your ribbon, I've wrapped the ribbon all the way around. One thing that I did, and I want you to notice here, is I left a bit of an overlap. So you'll always want to leave that overlap. So you see my ribbon kind of ends here, right? And then I kind of overlapped it here. You want to have that overlap to give you that extra bit of space to be able to work with. And then if you want, you can go ahead and cut it off after, but I like to keep the overlap to make sure that that I'm aligned. That way I know I'm nice and straight going across. And then what I'll do is, once I'm done, if I decide I don't need it, maybe what you could do is fold it, do a little design like that. Or you could just leave it and just continue your decorative stitch right over it, because it's really not too noticeable. What you may want to do is try to put it more towards the edge of the bag. That way it's not as noticeable. But I thought this would be, you know, a really cute bag. You could use it to go to the beach, you know, so because it's jute, you know, sometimes you have all that sand, you know, and it's got those little holes. But, you know, because we're using that fat quarter, I didn't even have to sew the bottom, right? Because it is one continuous piece, right? So your bottom is actually the fold of the jute. So you really didn't have to do anything to the bottom, but you can if you wanted to. So one thing that I have on the bag is I have it squared. If you wanted to have more of a boxy type of finish on your bag on the bottom, it can easily be done, right? So I would have to now flip this back over to the other side, and let me just do that real quick. All right, so you're gonna have this turned out. And then let me just poke the corners with my fingers here. Right. So what if I wanted to have a boxy look instead of a square look, then all you would have to do is something that's very, very simple. You just kind of go to the bottom of your bag, and I'll kind of try to stand it up like this so you guys can see it better. You notice how your edges of the bag has these points, right? So what you're going to want to do is take these points and squeeze it down. And you'll notice that you made like a little triangle here. Just sew across that little triangle. And if you want to do, get a pencil, one of those fabric marking pens, you can go ahead and draw the line with a ruler so it's nice and straight. And what that's going to do is give you a boxed edge. So if you sew this across here, and then you do the same thing to the other side, that will create the boxy look that you want. So let me just bring this over so you can see here. See how here you'll have that little triangle? This is what you would sew right across here. Okay? If you sew this across, it's going to give you that boxy look. And let me flip it inside out again so I can show you. I'm holding on to the little triangle with my hand. Let's see if I can show you what it would look like. So I have the triangle held in my hand as to where I would sew it. Now I've flipped it over, and let's pretend that this side is sewn. What you're going to notice now is the bag now has a bottom to it. It's no longer going to be the square, right? Let me see if I can show that a little more. So here you have your square finish, and here your bag is going to have that boxy finish. So what this is going to do is add a little bit more width to your bag. So now your bag here, let me see if I can just pin it real quick for you. Grab a couple of pins. And I'm going to pin this to see if it holds for me. And I'll go ahead and flip this back over. Whoop. Don't want those pins to fall down. So here will be the difference, right? Here you have your corner. That is just a squared corner. And then on here, once I flip this out, you're going to have that boxy edge. So you see how this is more squared off. It's giving you a little bit more of a width on the bag itself. It kind of expands that out for you. So you can do that. And when you have those boxy type of edges, the bag pretty much stands up on its own, right? I don't have both sides done, but I do have this side. And you see how it kind of just stands on its own. And you see the little flap on the inside. That's the little triangle that I have squared. So what I would do is just sew that piece, and that's going to make it a little bit of that boxy look. So if that's the look that you actually like, then you can go ahead and do that and create that boxy corner, or you can keep it with just the squared. So it really depends what you're going to put in the bag. If you're going to put things that maybe are a little bit wider and you want to have that width to the bag, then you can add the boxy corner. But you have to note that if you are going to do the boxy corner, you are going to take away a little bit of the length of the bag. So you'll notice here, let me see if I can put this down the right way so you guys can see. So this is the boxy corner. You can see it right here. Notice how the length of the bag has shifted. See how this is a lot shorter than this side. This is just the squared side. So the length of my bag is longer. So you can see the difference here, and it's really, again, it's a matter of preference, a matter of how much material you're using. This particular jute that I got from the Dollar Tree, I can tell you now, it's from Crafter Square, and it's 18 inches by 21, which is a fat quarter, right? So that's what you'll get if you're using that material. So let me go ahead and take the pin off, and I will put this back into that boxy corner, and you can see now I have more of a squared purse that is now going to give me a little bit more length to my bag. So just a little trick there for, you know, if you're into bag making, or you maybe want to make a zippered pouch that has a boxed edge. It's very, very easy to do. That's all you would need to do is sew across and to create that boxed edge. So definitely something that you can play around with your machine. Now, once you have put together the ribbon and you've sewn it across and you've got your decorative stitch, the other thing, you know, you've already decided that you are not going to do the lining on the inside. So I don't have anything for that. But other thing that you can do is you can think about adding the handles. Now there's different things that you can add for handles. You can make handles out of fabric. You can buy stuff from your local stores out there. There's so many things that you can pick from. So I decided to do something a little different and try it out. So I went in the Dollar Tree. I had in my stash something that I had purchased, which is called nautical rope, and it's made out of cotton. So this nautical rope, I was a little hesitant on it because it is pretty thick. So if you could find a nautical type rope that is a little bit thinner, it would probably be better to work with. I struggled a little bit with this, but I did still kind of just made it work. So when you unravel the rope, you know, you'll have, it's pretty long, so you can probably do multiple bags with what it comes with. This is again from the Dollar Tree. This is 6.8 feet or 13 millimeters long, so quite a lot for just a bag. You know, you can make quite a few bags with this. So definitely, you know, something you can pick up again at the Dollar Tree. And what I did was I kind of measured out how long I wanted my handle to be. I didn't want a big long handle. I just wanted to keep it nice and short because I'm really just going to throw some of my yarn in here, some material. It's just a quick to go bag for me to kind of go back and forth. So I picked up this that I had in my stash, and then what I went ahead and did, I had to kind of unravel it a little bit because it is too fat to try to fit into under your sewing machine. So I did unravel it just a bit just to kind of flatten that out, and then I went ahead and I sewed it across on my machine. Now what I still would like to do, even though I've already sewed it with my machine and it's pretty strong, what I wanted to do was then take a needle and thread and just kind of hand sew a little bit here, because I did want to attach this onto the inside of the ribbon, but I don't want it to come out on the outside. So I don't want you to see that I've stitched that on here. So I'm going to try to just attach it to the ribbon just to give it some extra reinforcement, even though it's pretty strong just with how I sewed it with my machine. I don't have any issues just using the bag like this, but I do want to kind of reinforce it and put that on here. One thing that you'll have to look out for when you are making for a handle for this bag, whether you use fabric or if you went and used the nautical rope like I did, you know, or whatever material it is that you're using, you want to make sure that you center your handles. So the way you would do that is I just went ahead and I folded this in half to determine what my middle point was. So I'll go ahead and do that. And then what you may want to do is just put a clip on there. And then you'll want to just line it up, maybe on a mat if you have a mat like this, or just bump it up against a ruler. Because what you want to take is whatever your middle point is, what you want to do once you have that middle point is you want to see, you know, how wide do you want your handles to be. So you could have handles that go like way out here. Let's see if I can get this in here, right? So it would be like super, you know, long or short, however you want it. You got to decide on the length, or you can have them, you know, a little bit more on the inside, you know. So decide how you want your bag to look at the best, right? You decide where you want it. But what I would do is once you find what your midpoint is, then I would just count how many inches you would need to be on both sides so that they are both the same. So let's just pretend that these clips here is my middle point, right? I can count 1, 2, 3 inches from the clip, and I would do 1, 2, 3 inches from, again, the middle clip on both sides. That would be your midpoint. What I would then do is take a clip, try to attach this here, then take it over to your sewing machine and go ahead and do the stitch. Now, one thing that I did do is I had my decorative stitch in kind of in the middle. So what I was able to do is flip the ribbon over and then stitch the nautical rope to the actual jute underneath. And then once I was done and it was already reinforced, I would just kind of flip it over. So that way you can't see the stitching that happens that is holding the handle together. So the way you do that is just flipping it over Or what you can do is put the handles on before you put the ribbon. But, you know, you're going to have to work around it because you want that ribbon to be on both sides. So you kind of just play around with how, you know, you're going to do this. So once I've gotten that in place and I've stitched both sides, you know, then I was able to just complete the bag. Now, again, what I'm going to do personally is just kind of hand stitch the handles a little bit more on the inside of the ribbon, just to kind of give it that reinforcement. But that's pretty much it. My bag is complete and I can go ahead and use it. And I think that this was just a really quick, great little project that you can make if you have the Dollar Tree jute or any jute at home. If some people are afraid to use it for sewing and stuff, but don't be afraid to use it. It is pretty easy to do. Like I said, if you use some of the little tricks that I explained to you on today's live, you know, just ironing it, you know, wetting it a little bit, it makes it a little bit easier to use. So it's not too bad. Had a lot of fun with it. I'll just finish up this bag once this craziness stuff has stopped. In the meantime, I have something that I can use to go back and forth, just putting things in the bag, kind of like a to-go type thing. So, you know, this is just a quick little project that you'll be able to do on your own, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I do see a lot of things going on in the chat. Let's see. 1 Minute Tip says, wait, you're like Miss Nancy and Dollar Tree. You guys need to have these companies pay you. No, they don't pay me. I just, you know, I just enjoy doing it. Let's see. These companies are making out like bandits. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, you know, I just like to, you know, if it's the material that I like, it's something that I like and I got a good deal on it, I just like to, you know, go ahead and tell people about it. You know, why not? Like, you guys can make these really easy projects, you know, for your friends, family, you know, just if you need a little quick to go bag, this is something you can put together really, really fast. You know, it's just, it doesn't take all too much effort here. You know, I've been really strapped for time, so this is something I was able to put together really quickly, and I think you would enjoy that. So that was my little project of the week. I didn't have too many other items. I wasn't able to really knit. However, when my sister was over, you know, I brought over my Addy machine to the hospital and we were kind of just knitting things, and I was showing her how to knit things. So she was able to knit a little hat. She did do it with really tight tension, so it is quite small because the tension is so tight, but it did come out really cute. I like the colors on it. Let me get you the name of the yarn. I believe it was Yarn Bee. Let me see. Oh, I think I have it back here, but I think it was unraveling. Oh, here it is. Sorry, it's Yarnspiration. It is Yarnspiration by Carrion. It's called the Cinnamon Swirl Cake. And this is the tag for it. And this is a medium weight, number 4. It's 100% acrylic. You know, and I think the colors are really neat, and kind of unraveled it by mistake just now, but that's okay. So this is kind of what I have left, and it's quite a lot, actually. You can probably make a scarf with this. So I went ahead and put a little pom-pom on it on the top, just a small one. But I thought this would be really cute. It's got some really cute colors on there, so I thought that would be really neat. I know winter's kind of over. We're kind of like getting into spring and then summer. But, you know, I thought this would just be a cute little thing just to have to the side. And you never know. Somebody might like it and I can kind of gift it away. Alrighty. So that's what my only knitted project that I was able to do. Oh, one more tip that I wanted to add on the bag itself. So last week in the Temu haul, one of the things that I purchased was these magnetic snaps. And the magnetic snaps is something that you can also add to your purse that you're making. So I decided not to use it just because of her time. You know, I didn't really have time to mess with it, but definitely something you can put in here if you want to just snap the bag shut, or you can just have 3 of them if you want. You know, it really depends, you know, how many you want to use. It's totally up to you. And it depends also on how wide you make the bag. So if you make it too wide, you may want to have multiple snaps in place. But it's very inexpensive from Temu. I did put the links on last week's live with all of the different items that I got. I know there were some pretty reasonable blankets that I got, and there were beautiful blankets that you can embroider on. They were baby blankets, and some were just like lap blankets for, like, you know, for your couch when you're watching TV or something. So you can definitely embroider something on that. So that's something that, you know, I did include in the live from last week. If you check the description out, you'll see the links in there. I also included a 30% off on that link. So if you click on that link, you'll get the 30%, which is in addition to the pretty low price that they had on their site. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Now let me just do a quick check. Let's see here. I think I covered everything that I wanted to show you guys for the bags. Oh, but I didn't mention the holidays. So the holidays today, almost forgot about the holidays. Holidays, Earth Day. Today is Earth Day, guys. So, you know, go out there, do something good for the earth, because it sure needs it. It's also Girl Scout Leadership Day. It's Puppet Day. It is Jelly Bean Day. So all you jelly bean eaters out there, I know you've got those leftover Easter candies you can kind of pull out. And it's also Record Store Day. So if you got those old records, I know I used to buy records back in the day, you can put them on, put your favorite record on, and then while it's playing in the background, you can be in your little craft room sewing away and doing all kinds of amazing things. So I hope you guys really enjoyed that. I'm going to run because I got to go back to the hospital, pick up my mom, and do another running around again. And I hope you guys really enjoyed today's session. So sorry it's a little, you know, quick and short, but I'm hoping that you guys enjoyed it and I was able to help you out and show you a couple of little tips and tricks that you can use for your next project. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And if you have any questions, comments, please feel free to send us some friend mail, or you can send me an email. Any questions that you have, I'll be sure to help you out. And thank you guys so much for joining, and I hope to be crafting with you soon. Bye, everyone.